Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of the Meta Forecast. I am very excited to be sharing you my new idea of combining the weather forecast with the Pokemon TCG meta, and hopefully this idea goes a long way. We be doing this every Wednesday, and with speaking of Wednesday, Stellar Crown format September 25th to October 2nd, 2024 is what we'll be talking about in this video today. And I would love to thank our research credits for Limitless and Trainer Hill. Guys, if you need a place at all to find a way to see what deck you want, these two places are to go. Limitless just says who is ranking higher, while the Trainer Hill is basically saying this deck does good against that deck, and so on and so on. So we'll be using these guys a lot. And I would also like to thank every player that went to the regionals in Germany or Brazil. Without you guys, this video wouldn't exist. And your creativity really shows after looking back through all of my research. So, without further ado, let's jump right into the meta forecast. So, for our first deck we have to talk about today, we have got Pidgeot Control with a win rate of 4.4%. And with Pidgeot, we have the highest ranking player so far with Pidgeot, Douglas Borges, 16th out of 578 at the Brazil Regionals in Joinville. And pretty much Pidgeot is a control deck that is also anti-meta. And pretty much what I have to say about it is it has lots of ways of keeping your opponent from attacking with Mimikyu and, Cornerstone, as well as Counter Catcher to help with that. And, Luxray to break those combos. And just a lot of reasons to keep your opponent from doing what they want to do in their turn. Eerie as well, Geisimo getting rid of special energies, just so many ways. And also you can fight back with a lot of powerful attacks, like Blood Moon and Terry-Pagos, and, maybe even Pidgeot can attack, double turbos there for everybody when you need it. It has a lot of answers to so many cards in the meta. Genesect getting rid of those A specs. Pretty much Iona with the hand disruption. Thornton getting, once you get through one Mimikyu and you have nothing left, you could get the Cornerstone out. You name it. Misfortune Sisters for item disruption. All these supporters, and then you could just pow back in 3 times over. Counter Catcher putting their opponent's most unretreatable Pokemon and giving yourself some time. Lost City getting rid of those single prize, probably basic Pokemon that can evolve. Just so many ways. And I didn't even mention De-Evolution or Bravery Charm, or just so many ways of disrupting your opponent. However, there is one inconsistent part of the deck, and that is its own inconsistencies. There seems like there is way too much going on, and you could probably end up with the wrong cards with nothing to help you. And because it's playing off that pile system, it may not be able to get you the wins. That's why it has so many good matchups. However, the matchups that are important, like Charizard and Dragapult, which a lot of people are playing now, those decks are not as consistent as it, but they still are able to plow through it with their own speed. But it can beat decks like Miraidon, which does have a fast speed, as well as Raging Bolt, which is absolutely crazy. So it has some consistency, but just doesn't feel like it will be consistent every game. If you're playing best of ones, probably not the best thing to be going to play. Maybe this is a very good best of 3 deck, that is for sure. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about Pidgeot. Alright, now we're on to the next deck, which is Lugia V-Star with a 4.9% win rate. And here's what we got to hear about Lugia. It is a energy acceleration deck. You have to get Archeops onto the field in order for Lugia to work out. And its highest ranking player, Rahul Reddy, went second out of 1,815 people at the Germany Dortmund regionals. So congratulations to him. So here's what I've got to say about Lugia. It feels like all the Lost Box cards suddenly immigrated here with Iron Hand and Jet Energy and Iron Bundle and Raikou. It just feels like all the Lost Box cards are here, and it is very interesting to see the two decks being married in this way. And it has an abundance of ways to get so many cards that you need with Squawkabilly, Fez, Professor's Research, Gift Energy, you name it. And then, with Professor's Research and Ultra Ball, it's just easy to discard, as well as Squawkabilly too. So everything that gets you cards, takes cards out the other end, making Lugia's combo feel like it would be so much easier every single time. I mean, you could literally die with the Gift Energy, Professor's Research, and then go through 14 cards in one turn. And really, that's what Lugia needs in order to thrive. And the special energies seem like they have so much utility now. Jet Energies for the, the Gust, Legacy Energies for the Prize Race, V-Guards for the Regidrago. However, it doesn't feel like it's translating to the matchups, as all three of those decks seem to have a really bad, Lugia has a bad matchup against them. So I'm interested as to know more about why, but I didn't research that far. But the even matchups are really important, as Charizard and Dragapult seem to have a tougher time, getting the edge over Lugia. It seems to be very 50-50, and those are really important decks to have even matchups against. And for the good matchups, Palkia, Snorlax, and, Roaring Moon, which are decks you don't commonly see now. So Lugia seems like to be the ultimate noob killer. Alright, now we're on to our 5th place deck, which is Gardevoir EX with a win rate of 5.1%. Here's what we got to say about Gardevoir. It seems like it's the only semi-one prize deck that can still use one prize attackers in order to help itself in the prize race, of forcing your opponent to always keep gusting, especially things like Raging Bolt, to constantly get those two prizers. So literally I just say gust or bust, that's the real Guardy. However, going back to Reset Stamp does not help, as it hurts your opponent's consistency, allowing Gardevoir to catch up. Gardevoir just needs to keep going to the promised land, which is keeping your opponent's hand size down, with either Iona or Unfair Stamp, giving Gardevoir the edge, keeping it going before their routes can always be taken out. And finally, Gardevoir is still aiming to do damage spread. People are still playing with 2 Munkidores, 2 Dark Energies, which is absolutely fantastic because it helps Screamtail, Drifloon, Flutter Mane, and, even Guardy get the edge on some Pokemon. It helps Guardy hit the magical number, which is 210, on things like Pheasantipity or Ogerpon, because it takes 30 damage from one Pokemon to another, which is really, really, really exciting. And finally, for its matchups, it seems like it has a good Raging Bolt matchup, which is really, really, really important for this meta, because Raging Bolt is just that good. It also has a really good Dragapult matchup as well, and a Lugia one as well. It just seems like it has a lot of good matchups, but it is struggling against the Charizard, even mostly because of its weakness. And, Iron Thorns is always out there, even though I think it's still dying down. But it's also suffering against the new Terry-Pagos, and I'm really interested as to know why. Maybe Terry-Pagos goes a little faster. I would have to see that concept in practice. Alright, moving on. Alright, and for our 4th place deck, we have Regidrago V-Star with a 5.4% win rate. And this deck pretty much gets off the ground very quickly. It's a variety attacker, meaning you need to have dragons in the discard in order for it to use its attacks. And our highest ranking player, Johann Bazazak, I think I said it right, made 10th out of 1850 at the regionals in Germany. So congratulations to him for his play over here. Kurum seems to be a double-edged sword now. That's probably one of the reasons why it's gone lower lately, because it can conclude games quickly for either you or your opponent, killing your consistency if you open with it, but if you get it off the ground very quickly and Regidrago's all set up, your opponent is immediately knocked out because it could do 1/10 to 3 Pokemon. So I can see how it can end games quickly for, stage 2 Pokemon like Charizard and Dragapult, at least sometimes, though it's saying there's bad matchups. And I'm assuming the bad matchups are because, the deck is really slow. Like, Raging Bolt is fast, Dragapult is fast. You're just getting a lot of knockouts really early with other decks, so I can see why. But it still has a good Charizard matchup because, it can really use the Hawlucha in order to help the Dragapult attack Phantom Dive get to 70s very quickly, allowing Charizard not even to be on the field. Another change that I've noticed is Giratina V-Star just taking out Giratina V by itself. It helps with the consistency a lot, but you are losing Shred, which does not help against Stall or Control, where you're just able to do 160 damage for free because you don't have an ability, or you could just tear the Mimikyus because it says you can do that damage no matter what. But you're still hitting for 280, meaning you can take out Lugias on other Regidragos and stuff like that, which is very, very, very good to have. And that's pretty much all I got to say about Regidrago. It always feels consistently the same with just some touch-ups. Alright, on to the third place deck. We have, drumroll please, Dragapult EX with a 6.5 win rate. So here's what I've got to say about Dragapult. So they are really taking the Pidgeots away now. No more Pidgeot, but it really does help its consistency. Instead of now having to worry about evolving it every turn, you can use Dragalink to, get cards, Peasantipity, Rotom to get cards, Lumineon to get cards, and, Tatsugiri to get cards. So it seems like Dragapult is not out of options in order to keep its consistency going. And it's stupid easy to set up Dragapult anyways with Arven, so you're not really worried about, trying to get the rare candy. You're always probably getting the rare candy. Just a note of mind, when you're playing Dragapult, remember to play slow against things like Guardy, because Guardy will be able to outpace you, so please get those Dracoloaks out instead of, taking greedy plays. Another thing is that the Duskull line seems to be really present here. It seems to be like the ultimate way for Dragapult to play because you're taking a lot more prizes with more damage spread. It's very, very, very comfortable with that aspect of things, as well as Radiant Alakazam really helping things just be put into perspective. You can put 13 on a Pokemon that's not even dead, but you can start transferring it every single turn, and you're just collecting more and more prize cards, which really just seems amazing here. Alright, on to our second place deck for the week. And we have Charizard EX with a win rate of 10.5%. So, congratulations to the highest ranking player, Raphael Utiti, for beating down everybody with your beatdown deck and claiming 7th out of 157.8 at the Brazilian Regionals in Joinville. And pretty much what I've got to say about Charizard now is that Thornton makes so much sense in this deck. If you need Radiant Charizard, if you need a Duskull to rare candy into a Dusknoir or a Dusclops, to get that last bit of damage. Thornton seems to be your best friend, and it's easily searchable with Pidgeot that is still consistent in this deck. And another thing I have to say is, seems like people are catching on to the fact that Briar is just not good for this deck anymore. It's really, really hard with the pretty much prize race, justifying 2-2-2 when you're always trying to use Dusknoir every single time. It just doesn't seem consistent. So, good on Charizard players for finding out that Briar is almost just a brick for these kinds of decks. And finally, it seems like the dominant A-spec for Charizard now is the maximum belt, helping it hit that magical number of 210 with Pheasantipity and Teal Mask Ogerpon. That's what I was looking for. So yeah, just easily hitting them first turn to get the prize race going. And its matchups don't look so bad either. It's consistently good against Palkia and Terrypagos, which are some of the new rising stars. But also, it can do pretty dead even with Raging Bolt and Dragapult, which is pretty much what the meta has turned into, along with Charizard itself. But be wary, as Stall, is still out there and you're not playing Petrite anymore. And Regidrago is still out there eating your, Pokemon away. And Dusclops Dusknoir can't do anything about it. And Control, like Iron Thorns and Pidgeot, is out there as well, just eating the deck up, as well as Guardy coming in for the kills, even though Guardy has a darkness weakness. So just be worried. Play safely, and do not play greedy over the weekend. And finally, we've got our first place winner for the week. It is Raging Bolt EX. A very, very, very comfortable first with 12.3%. And honestly, it's just the same old energy acceleration Raging Bolt that we all love. Congratulations to Jan Hossman for coming 5th out of 1,800 people at regionals. The deck just is always super consistent, and it just has a pretty not so bad matchup spread, which pretty much really balances the deck. But some new things that I see here are people now playing with Dusknoir in this deck in order to help it get more prizes than it could actually need. So congratulations to those people who are figuring out a way to sneak that very powerful combo into the deck. I cannot wait to try it. But just hope that the rare candy isn't prized or milled out too early, because you're only playing with one. But with the amount of cards you get in your hand, it should be easier to pull off. It still uses Briar for Ogerpon, which does confuse me, because it's just, Briar's still kind of bricky, but, it could be good to make single prize decks, or, stage 2 decks, like Charmander or something. You could take an extra prize if Charizard's doing well, but you manage to slow him down. So good on people for figuring out how to use it, but I still think it's kind of a brick. And I'm just glad people have stopped playing with Pokemon Catcher. Just the right decision, because Pokemon Catcher really stops the momentum, and they are instead playing with Prime Catcher, Switch Card, and Iron Bundle, even over Boss's Orders. It seems like Boss is a dead card to most Raging Bolt players now. It is not consistent enough, and I am really glad that I am starting to see that for the first time. It has lots of good and even matchups. It has a good matchup against Dragapult, which is really, really important because Dragapult's all over the place, and Dragapult just cannot spread against the Raging Bolt as much as it would like to. Maybe it could, but Raging Bolt seems like it's fast enough to kill a Dragapult very, very fast. And it's just good against Lugia, Palkia, Raging Bolt, Regidrago, Ancient Box, Terrypagos, so many even matchups as well. So such a consistent deck with the best matchup spread. But just be careful, there might be a Charizard player out to get you. And you might laugh at the Charizard player thinking he's a meta sheet, but he is really, really toxic to your deck. And that is pretty much every single deck that we know about this week. It just seems like all the oldies are coming back. Now, here's what we know. Control has a dominating presence. Everywhere you go, Snorlax and Pidgeot or Noivern is just all over the place. And I know you didn't see Noivern in this video, but it's out there. You never know. And it's crazy to me that Pecharunt has died down already. Charizard doesn't really help. But again, you know, Pecharunt's a 190 HP Pokemon. So basically with Pecharunt, you're just a sitting duck for, you know, prize races to go faster in your opponent's behavior. Dusknoir has invaded so many decks in the game, and now, you know, I mean, it's even invaded Raging Bolt. Now, once it's gotten to Raging Bolt, you know it's so important to have. It just means that you're more, you know, in order to have a more consistently good decks against a wide range of opponents, you need to have Duskull to keep the prize race going, and it's the most optimal choice because how else are you going to get 3 prize cards in one turn? I don't know. Everything just feels the same apart from Dragapult being a threat. It just feels like the Shrouded Fable meta, nothing's really changed. At least endgame Shrouded Fable, except that Dragapult finally got some new support, and Dragapult was really overhyped in, you know, Twilight Masquerade, but now it's finally good to see it, you know, thrive in this ecosystem. Terry Pagos being in its early stages is really, really interesting to see. It's not like back in the days when Lugia came out of the gate swinging. Seems like Pokemon is taking their time to, you know, add more support slowly instead of making everybody have to buy the new thing, which is really nice of Pokemon to do. And finally, it just seems that Stellar Crown was overhyped and it doesn't have much to offer unless you are Dragapult. And that's kind of a shame because, you know, a lot of cards were overhyped, but it just seems like the hype has died down and everybody's going back to the same old decks. But hopefully Stellar Crown's legacy lives on in future decks with future expansions. We don't know, but I'm excited to see the future. And I want to say thank you guys for watching. If you want more meta forecast, please subscribe and let me know what decks you want to see in the meta next week. I mean, I don't control the meta just like weathermen don't control the weather, but, you know, what do you hope to see? I guess that's a better question. All right, this is The Couch signing out. Thank you.